Welcome to Collector's Corner, a new edition for 2019. I am in Genonia. I am in the home of Joy, Ellyn, Ryan, and Tim Brady. And we are going to look at a few of their very interesting antiques and talk a little bit about them. All right, the first thing I found in here that I think is fascinating is this wonderful camera.
Yeah, well, we discovered that this camera, which is a 4x5 press camera, was made by the Wollensack Optical Company in New York State, in the same city that Eastman Kodak ended up in. It's sitting on a handmade tripod. I think the wood is teak. This camera came with a leather case full of glass slides, because at that time sensitized glass was very common on these larger cameras, and so your negative looks the same as if you'd taken it on sheet film, but the difference is, of course, the image stays in an absolute plane. There's no chance that the film is going to be wrinkled or curled or anything. And so if you're using the glass slide, you put this in the back of the camera, and when you're ready to take your picture, of course, you pull this, and that exposes the glass slide, which is sensitized. You can't do that without it being in the camera, or you'd ruin the slide. The camera lens fascinates me because it doesn't have any lens manufacturer's name on it. So this Wollensack Optical Company obviously made the lens as well, or it would have some other name as a manufacturer. The maximum opening is f8 for those people that understand camera settings, and the shortest shutter speed is 1/100th of a second.
You knew so much about it. I didn't have to do a whole lot of research, but you're right on the fact that they made both the lens and the camera. They started out in Rochester, New York, as simply lens makers for other companies. And then the two brothers broke away and started their own company in 1907. And from everything I was able to find, this is a 1907. Another interesting thing about the camera is the fact that it has the original case, the original slides, and even some of the original photographs that were taken from the camera. This, of course, would enhance the value probably by another 50% to 100%. Most important, as with anything that is collectible, that's why everybody saves their boxes for figurines or whatever it is. That is quite a bit of the total value. Joy Ellyn, I love the lamp. It's gone with the wind lamp, of course. What can you tell me about it?
Well, my grandfather gave it to my grandmother Meta back in the 1800s.
Yes?
It was kerosene.
Sure.
And then at a later time he electrified it, and I'm fortunate that I was able to get it because I was the oldest in my generation and the only girl.
I see. Well, I can tell you a little bit about it. We took a magnifying glass and looked all over it for our makers, and believe it or not, this teeny tiny knob here on the side, we found a name on it, and it said W.J. B-A-B-E-N, Babin. And I looked them up, and they were in business on July 23rd of 1884. So yes, indeed, it is very early. Of course, the bottom is a font, and that's where your kerosene went. And then the top, of course, had a chimney, and it had a wick in there, which was replaceable. And that, in many, many cases, was the main light in your living room in the evening. The finish looks very much like cranberry glass, but it's not. It's flashed ruby and beautifully decorated. Unlike many of the antiques who have fallen greatly in value in the last few years, and we'll talk about that in a minute, this has held its value. In fact, if anything, it may have gone up a little bit in the past few years. All right, let's look at this. This is lovely. What a beautiful set. This would be considered a sandwich set or tea set. Every lady had a tea in the afternoon and served her friends with this little sandwich tray with cup attached. This has the matching creamer and sugar, salt and pepper. This was probably used for candies or mints. And so tell me about it.
Well, this was purchased by my father for my mother in 1932 as an engagement gift. And then they were married in 1933, and I was born in 1934.
This piece over here, which is really not part of the set, but very, very similar, is actually marked 22 karat gold. So chances are this is either 18 to 22. And Joy Ellen asked me, isn't it valuable as far as the gold goes? And no, unfortunately, I don't think anybody has a way of melting that gold back off of the china. As she said, this is very popular in the 1930s. A company by the name of Picard came out with it first. And almost everybody has a piece of Picard china in their china cabinet if they have kept anything of Grandma's. Not much value. Again, we're talking about the antique market and what happened to it in 2007. Took a huge dive, and it has not come back up. But it's a beautiful set. This particular set was a copy of Picard. It was made by Stauffer, S-T-O-U-F-F-E-R, here in the United States. And it's only marked Stauffer China. It is porcelain, and as I said, it's all hand decorated in 18 to 22 karat gold. Let's talk a little bit about this plate that is laying here next to the gold china. This is a hand-painted porcelain plate, and it is signed on the front by the artist. Beautifully done. Now, how was this done? Well, it was done by buying a piece of china that would have already had this gold band around the edge, but plain white other than that, and then going to china painting class. In the 1920s, this was extremely popular. This is what everyone did. This was before television. What did you do? Well, you got together with a group of ladies and you painted china. Now, what's interesting, on the back of this one, it says 2010. Well, it's very possible, since Joy Ellen doesn't know any history on this, that that is when it was painted. There is still a porcelain hand painting artist group in Naples at this time, and it's very likely that it might have been done there. All right, let's go to the Royal Doulton figurines now and talk a little bit about those.
Well, these are two that Tim's father, when he was a World War II pilot in Lancaster flying over to England taking American officers during the war, he'd stop to refuel at the Azores, and he would buy these and take them home to Tim's mother. And when she died, it was divided into the family, and these are the two that Tim has treasured ever since.
I see. Now again, let's talk about what has happened to the market on figurines. Hummel figurines, Royal Doulton figurines, Yardrow figurines. Again, a terrible decline. You just don't even want to know what has happened since 2007 with the value of these lovely pieces. Royal Doulton made these and probably are still producing these two. One is Autumn Breeze and the other is Daffy Down Dilly. They were very popular and they're probably still making them today. On the bottom is what they call now I have to look, an HN mark. And the HN mark will not have the date it was made, but the number that is on the bottom will correspond to the year it was made. This one, for instance, is 1913, and this one is 1712, which of course has nothing to do with the date. But what it did tell me is that these are very early pieces. As Joy Ellyn said, these are something that was made during the Second World War. The value again has gone way, way down. But the value on these is probably worth 2 or 3 times the ones that are being made today and sold on the secondary market. So I want to say thank you to Joy Ellyn and to Tim very much for letting me come in your home and see these wonderful items. And I hope our viewers out there, I'm waiting for a phone call. And I'd be happy to come into your home and see what I could help you with. Thank you so much.